13. Palamedes and the Cranes. What interests me the most in conducting this argument is the difference that is constantly appearing between the poetic and prosaic methods of thought. The prosaic method was invented by the Greeks of the classical age as an insurance against the swamping of reason by mythographic fancy. It has now become the only legitimate means of transmitting useful knowledge, and in England, as in most other mercantile countries, the current popular view is that music and old fashioned diction are the only characteristics of poetry which distinguish it from prose. That every poem has or should have a precise single strand prose equivalent. As a result, the poetic faculty is atrophied in every educated person who does not privately struggle to cultivate it, very much as the faculty of understanding pictures is atrophied in the Bedouin Arab. T.E. Lawrence once showed a colored crayon sketch of an Arab sheik to the sheik's own clansmen. They passed it from hand to hand, but the nearest guess as to what it represented came from a man who took the sheik's foot to be the horn of a buffalo, and from the inability to think poetically, to resolve speech into its original images and rhythms, and recombine these on several simultaneous levels of thought into a multiple sense, derives the failure to think clearly in prose. In prose, one thinks on only one level at a time, and no combination of words needs to contain more than a single sense. Nevertheless, the images resident in words must be securely related if the passage is to have any bite. This simple need is forgotten. What passes for simple prose nowadays is a mechanical stringing together of stereotyped word groups without regard for the images contained in them. The mechanical style, which began in the counting house, has now infiltrated into the university, some of its most zombie-esque instances occurring in the words of eminent scholars and divines. Mythographic statements which are perfectly reasonable to the few poets who can still think and talk in poetic shorthand seem neither nonsensical or childish to nearly all literary scholars. Such statements, I mean, as Mercury invented the alphabet after watching the flight of cranes, or Menwu Ab Turgawald saw 3 rowan rods growing out of the mouth of Nguyen Far with every kind of knowledge and science written on them. The best that scholars have yet done for the poems of Guion is wild and sublime, and they never question the assumption that he, his colleagues, and his public were people of either stunted or undisciplined intelligence. The joke is that the more prose minded the scholar, the more capable he is supposed to be of interpreting ancient poetic meaning, and that no scholar dares to set himself up as an authority on more than one narrow subject for fear of incurring the dislike and suspicion of his colleagues. To know only one thing well is to have a barbaric mind. Civilization implies the graceful relation of all varieties of experience to a central humane system of thought. The present age is peculiarly barbaric. Introduce, say, a Hebrew scholar to an ichthyologist or an authority on Danish place names, and the pair of them would have no single topic in common but the weather or the war, if there happened to be a war in progress, which is usual in this barbaric age. But that so many scholars are barbarians does not much matter so long as few of them are ready to help with their specialized knowledge, the few independent thinkers, that is to say, the poets who try to keep civilization alive. The scholar is a quarryman, not a builder, and all that is required of him is that he should quarry cleanly. He is the poet's insurance against factual error. It is easy enough for the poet in his hopelessly muddled and inaccurate modern world to be misled into false etymology, anachronism, and mathematical absurdity by trying to be what he is not. His function is truth, whereas the scholar's is fact. Fact is not to be gainsaid. One may put it in this way, the fact is a tribune of the people with no legislative right, but only the right of veto. Fact is not truth, but a poet who willfully defies fact cannot achieve truth. The story about Mercury and the cranes occurs in the fables of Caius Julius Hyginus, who, according to the well-informed Suetonius, was a native of Spain, a freedman of the Emperor Augustus, the curator of the Palatine Library, and a friend of the poet Ovid. Like Ovid, Hyginus ended his life in imperial disfavor. If he is the learned author of the fables attributed to him, they have since been abbreviated and botched by unlearned editors, yet they are admitted to contain ancient mythological matter of great importance, not found elsewhere. In his last fable, Hyginus records, we'll do these. 1. That the Fates invented the 7 letters of Alpha, Omicron, Epsilon, Eta, Iota, Beta, and Tau. Or alternatively, that Mercury invented them after watching the flight of cranes, which make letters as they fly. Interesting. The Palamedes, son of Nauplius, invented 11 others. 3. That Epicharmus of Sicily added theta and chi, or psi and pi. 4. That Simonides added omega, epsilon, zeta, and psi, or omega, epsilon, zeta, and phi. And we'll stop there today.